Welcome back, college football fanatics. We are just under 23 hours from the kickoff of Colorado versus Nebraska in Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. This game will take place at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Nebraska, when I previewed this game and gave my prediction, Nebraska 38, Colorado 16. The line was Nebraska minus 7.5. It has moved down to Nebraska minus 6.5. Colorado won 36-14 last season in 2023. I do think the Huskers have revenge on their mind. I think they are going to win and win big. So in today's video, just like what I did a few hours earlier with Michigan versus Texas, I am going to give you 5 reasons why I think the Nebraska Cornhuskers will beat the Colorado Buffaloes. Typically, and I'm sorry if you are a Buffaloes fan, but I would usually do a counter video to this on my own because I like seeing things from both sides and being objective. I usually would do a 5 reasons why Colorado would win this game video. Even though I am picking Nebraska to win, there is a pathway for Colorado to win this game, just like how I picked Michigan to beat Texas 23-20, and I gave 5 reasons why I think Michigan will beat Texas, but I usually would have also made a 5 reasons why Texas will beat Michigan video. Instead, what I did is I put my 5 reasons why Texas will beat Michigan below as a pinned comment in the 5 reasons why Michigan will win. And that's what I'm going to do here, but with Colorado. In the comments section below this video, you will find pinned 5 reasons why I think Colorado will, or in my actual opinion, can, because I'm picking the Cornhuskers, win this game. I think that, again, Nebraska will win, and they'll win big, but there are some things that Colorado has up its sleeve, and some things they have staring you in the face that you know about very well, like quarterback Shedeur Sanders, wide receiver Travis Hunter, wide receiver Jimmy Horn Jr. Hunter's also an athlete. We know him most for his receiving ability, where I think he's the best, but he can also affect you on the defense as well. So, case in point, let's dive deep and discuss these 5 reasons why I think Nebraska will beat Colorado tomorrow night. But before we do that, I want you to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, to click that notification bell. Please click it so that you can get notified when we release college football content, whether we cover the Cornhuskers, the Buffaloes. I do want to cover some Big 12 this season, just as a heads up, or Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, USC, Iowa, etc. We mainly cover the Big Ten here on College Football with Sam, but we will go outside of the Big Ten for games that intrigue me, that I think I can, have an audience with, or for very, big games like Georgia, Alabama is probably a game that I will cover, despite the fact that it's not a Big Ten game, just because the implications of that matchup. But it's very important that you like the video to help us get into the algorithm, share it around so that more viewers and college football fans can be attracted to this awesome channel where I'm dedicated to producing content for you. And hitting that subscribe button will help us get to 20,000 subs, where I will be doing a giveaway that you can be involved in as a celebration for reaching that awesome number. And clicking the notification bell helps you out by keeping you informed on the state of college football, especially in the Big Ten. But let's kick it off with reason number 1, and I think the biggest reason. That being, Nebraska just has a superior roster. That's reason number 1. The Cornhuskers are deeper at every position except for, and maybe this is a bold opinion of mine, wide receiver. For quarterback, I would still give it to Colorado because I think Shedeur is, that much better and on a different level, especially from a potential and talent standpoint, than Dylan Raiola is. And we don't exactly know who Raiola is yet and how well he'll play throughout the season. But I'll tell you what, if Shedeur Sanders goes down, who's replacing him that will come even close to his level? The answer is no one. If Raiola goes down, Heinrich Harburg, while not as good, I think would do a serviceable job in the offense that he is in. Colorado's offense is specifically tailored, as it should be, to Shedeur Sanders, and anyone who backs him up if he goes down is not going to have nearly the same success. With Nebraska, they have a better supporting cast, a better foundation and system. So you can plug and play with Nebraska. They could take on multiple different strategies while keeping to their identity and playing at a high level. For Colorado, they have to use their quarterbacks and wide receivers exclusively to win this game and shift their chips into the middle of the table, relying on their defense to at least get a stop or preferably a few stops, rely on the offensive line to protect Shedeur Sanders, assume that Shedeur Sanders is also going to get the ball out quickly because sometimes he holds on to it too long. Colorado's very limited in what they can do. They're exceptional at passing the ball, but in everything else, they're limited. Nebraska doesn't have the type of exceptional skill at any position, at any scheme or strategy that Colorado has at its passing offense. As I've said in my preview video, Colorado's skill sets are a lot more heightened and toned and trained than Nebraska's are. But whereas, let's say Colorado is a broadsword, like the big medieval swords that the knights used to swing, Nebraska's a Swiss Army knife. They can pass on you. They can run on you. They can use tight ends in the passing game or their receivers. They can go deep with Isaiah Nair or Jalen Lloyd. They can use Jamal Banks and those same receivers, more so the tight ends, to pick up short yardage. They got Dylan Raiola, who isn't extremely mobile but very competent for a true freshman and does have some legs. They have Dante Dowdle to power through opponents. Him and Emmett Johnson are the most explosive. You got Gabe Ervin Jr., who's just a battering ram. Ramir Johnson, who can be a receiver-type back. That's just on the offense, too. On defense, they have a deep enough defensive line and secondary to do multiple different things there. They are, simply put, the deeper roster. And you saw that last season as the longer Colorado and Nebraska seasons went on, it became evident that Nebraska overall was the better team. They went 5-7. Colorado went 4-8. And Nebraska had a tough start. Colorado had a hot start, and then they quickly simmered down, especially after that Oregon blowout loss, the failed comeback attempt against USC. The whole season kind of unraveled. For Nebraska, that did happen in November, but common theme, a lot of their losses were close. The defense finished top 25. For Colorado, even the offense began to sputter later in the season. They had some close losses too, but at the end of the day, Nebraska finished 2023 off on a higher note because even last year, they had overall the more balanced roster. This year, that's even more heightened. They are, I would say, anywhere from average to maybe at best above average or good at every position, and that is a big plus, especially in the world of college football where we don't know what the true effects of the portal are yet, but one hypothesis is that it really hurts depth. Up next, number 2, is the upgraded passing offense. This kind of comes from point number 1, in the sense that Nebraska, because of what they've done in recruiting and through the portal, finally has a deep receiver room and a quarterback that matters, which is important because, well, that's what Colorado has. They have a very good quarterback, a great near elite, perhaps if he plays his best, an elite quarterback, an elite receiver in Travis Hunter. Jimmy Horn could also be an elite receiver, and other great receivers in that room. Nebraska not only has a more balanced roster, but they can do well in passing the football as well. Dylan Raiola went 19 of 27 for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, averaged 8.8 yards per pass attempt against UTEP. Now, UTEP isn't good, but North Dakota State and UTEP, if they played each other, that would be a dogfight. It's not like North Dakota State is guaranteed to be better than UTEP or the other way around. I think Shedeur is better than Raiola, and his receiver core is better than Raiola's. But the fact that Nebraska has a good passing attack and potentially a great quarterback, in addition to the running game that they have and the defense that they possess, is huge. It gives them balance. It gives them multiple ways out of a tough situation. It makes opposing defensive staffs and defenses have to cover all their bases. And Colorado's defense can't cover a single base. Their defense against North Dakota State looked worse than it did at points last season. Not if you're comparing September Colorado of last year to September Colorado of this year, but Colorado's defense at times was able to hold some Pac-12 teams, especially later in the year, to less points than I would have expected them to earn against a defense in Colorado that was just atrocious, particularly in the trenches. But here we are, and Raiola going, 70% of his passes completed, nearly a 170 passer rating, 168.9 to be exact. Raiola also did have a 78.3 QBR, which is a great QBR reading from looking at the season as if he played 12 games, which he hasn't, but he's young, true freshman, 5-star talent. He should get better as the season progresses. Isaiah Nair had 6 receptions for 121 receiving yards and a touchdown. Jamal Banks had 61 receiving yards and a touchdown on 4 receptions. Janarian Bonner, Carter Nelson, Alex Bullock, Jamal Banks. I think I said Jalen Lloyd accidentally. It was Jamal Banks who had 61 yards and a touchdown. The 2 incoming transfers at wide receiver, Banks and Nair, were the biggest and best, most impactful wide receivers against UTEP. And on top of that, you do have Jalen Lloyd, Thomas Fedoni. Carter Nelson's actually listed as a wide receiver by ESPN. I don't know if that's true, but he adds to the receiving game. And there's just a lot to like about the potential that this passing offense has. They've transformed for the best at quarterback and receiver. And they will test Colorado's secondary because Colorado, in their secondary, has Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter is going to be someone where, look, if he's going to be on the field for a lot, he'll probably get worn out, but you don't want to bet on that. What you more so want to do is, for example, you don't target Travis Hunter, you test Cameron Silman Craig or Preston Hodge or Shiloh Sanders. With the receivers that they have in Nebraska, almost can't believe I'm saying this, but with Nair, Banks, Jalen Lloyd, with Bonner, with Fedoni at tight end, and he's going to be a mismatch for Colorado's linebackers, for Trevor Woods and company. They have multiple options to attack the field. So go with the path of least resistance, and on top of that, run the football. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But first and foremost, let's look at stopping the run and getting to the quarterback, which is important if Colorado wants to win this game, or Nebraska wants to win this game, pardon me. That's also important for Colorado, though. It's very important, and it actually may be a reason why they could win this game, is they do have underrated defensive ends. They didn't showcase themselves well on Thursday when they played last week, but they were very productive at the schools that they came from, so maybe they can show up in this game. But we're talking about why Nebraska will win here. Nebraska's defensive line, Nash Hutmacher, Ty Robinson, with edge, MJ Sherman, and others in the rotation. It's especially Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher in that defensive tackle room will push around Colorado's offensive line. Why? It's not just because Colorado is suspect at that position, and they very much are. It's more so that they have one of the better D-lines in the Big Ten, which consequentially means they have one of the better defensive lines in all of college football. Ty Robinson and Mason Goldman got a sack against UTEP. And last season, Nebraska in 2023 had a transformed defense with year one under Tony White. Jamari Butler led the team in sacks with 5.5. He is back this season. Nash Hutmacher had 4.5 sacks, along with 40 total tackles, 2 passes defended. Cameron Lenhart had 3 sacks, and he's back with the program. MJ Sherman had a half sack. James Williams, he had 2 sacks. They returned a ton of production on that defensive line. And a guy like Hutmacher can be an All-American level defensive tackle. Ty Robinson can also be potentially a future NFL caliber defensive tackle, depending on what he does this year. But he was impressive last year. Hutmacher more so. And they will be able to not just stop the run, but I think just push around Colorado's offensive line. Period. Amen. Just leave it at that. This defensive line is really, really good. It's dominant. I don't know if it's Penn State, Michigan, or Ohio State level caliber. In fact, I don't even know if it's Iowa level caliber, though I do suspect it is based off of my preseason study and returning production. But it's one of the best defensive lines in the country and one of the best in the Big Ten. And that going up against a Colorado offensive line that was outside the top 100 last year, and this year looks a little better, but not much better, that is a massive, and I mean massive, mismatch. This actually could have been higher on the list because, in all honesty, Nebraska really just needs to not turn over the football and have an average game through the air and probably an average game on offense with the defense that they have to potentially gain a win. That would not maximize their capacity to win, though, which is why I think their superior overall roster and their passing offense and the potential it has are bigger reasons why Nebraska will win this game. The defensive line's a big reason, though, and I will tell you, Shedeur Sanders, regardless of whether Nebraska wins or loses, he is going to have to take an ice bath after the game because his offensive line against this defensive line is going to result in him being sacked over and over and over again. And his running backs, including Dallin Hayden, who's a player that I like a lot, and as a Michigan fan, when Ohio State, when he left Ohio State in the portal, I wanted Michigan to potentially pick him up just because more depth can't hurt. It's the era of the portal, though, and wanting to maximize playing time. So it's understandable why he went to Colorado, but you're going to see him getting tackled in the backfield. Shedeur, any running back they throw is going to be behind the line of scrimmage for a lot of this game, and not in a good way, in the your knees around the ground and your team's moving back type of way. At number 4, we have game controlling strategy. This is really the running the football that I was talking about a few minutes ago. Nebraska can ground and pound Colorado's defense away. It can look like pouring warm water on snow. That's what it could look like. Or maybe that's a bad analogy because if snow exists, the warm water would probably freeze. I'll say it'll look like the sun shining on snow. That's a better analogy, where the snow just slowly melts away, where Colorado's defense slowly melts away as Nebraska earns 35 to 40 minutes of possession, and they're able to trade scoring blows with Colorado. And Colorado's defense is so tired that unless Shedeur Sanders scores with only 10 or 20, 30 seconds remaining, that it'll be too much time, and the defense will be so worn out that Nebraska can just march down the field and basically secure a win as long as they don't make any critical errors, which would be old school Nebraska, but I think they've changed, and even if they haven't, this game controlling strategy allows them to put the ball on the ground where there's less risk of turnovers, also less risk of a big play, so you have less upside, but you also have a decreased probability of a collapse or of a momentum shifting play in a negative way. Nebraska can just run the ball. They could run the ball given how Colorado has struggled on the defensive line in the past and also against North Dakota State at times. They could probably run 60-40, 65-35, dare I say it, 70-30, and move this defense around. Now, that type of strategy, because of Nebraska's concerns on the offensive line, will not maximize your potential of scoring, which is important against Colorado, but that's taking ground and pound to an extreme. Really, what I'm trying to get across here is Nebraska just running 60-40, they will keep Colorado's defense more than honest because they're still passing 40% of the time, and they do have a good, I think, at least above average passing offense. That combined with the stable of running backs they have and the interior of the offensive line, which is the stronger unit of their offensive line, will allow Nebraska to move up and down the field with several different alternative options of doing so. They can pass short, medium, even take a deep shot. They can run. Maybe they mix Heinrich Harburg in, or they run with Emmett Johnson, Ramir Johnson, Gabe Irvin Jr., Dante Dowdle, whatever they need to do. Or maybe they have a little bit of a touch pass like we saw against UTEP on that one play. There are many ways Nebraska can attack. Ultimately, their identity is going to be, we want to be physical, we want to run the ball, we want to pass and pass well and not rely as much on our ground game as we did last year, but we are still going to run at you, and you're going to have to stop us. And I think that that is a great strategy, especially against a team like Colorado, who's stronger toward the boundary and in the backfield, both on offense and defense. They're stronger at skill position play and defensive backfield play than they are in the trenches. And finally, and I won't spend much time on this, but the night game environment in a stadium with over 70,000 fans and a hungry fan base that is just feasting for a win like this. If Nebraska wins this game from a standpoint of hype, a quality of opponent even, and like recruiting and a win for the program, from all those standpoints, this would be Nebraska's probably biggest win from just perspective since, and correct me if I'm wrong, but probably like 2016 when they beat Oregon, and that got the hype train moving for Mike Riley, and at one point they were undefeated in top 10. Or it could even be earlier than that, depending on how, like, this win could be looked back at as the win that got Matt Rule and Nebraska going. Like, someone like me who studies the Big Ten in Nebraska, or Corn Crazed, or Corn Nation, or Adam Carrick, or people close to Nebraska would know it was other things that got this program started, jump-started, if it goes on to do big and good things in the Big Ten, and I think it will. But from the national media, this would be the game that's looked back upon. Sorry, I can't speak English, as to Nebraska is back type deal. Because of Deion Sanders, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter, the quality of athletes that Colorado has, the hype surrounding not just Colorado, but Nebraska, and just everything about this environment. There's a lot of pressure on both of these teams, but you know how when your kettle, if you make tea, when the water's hot and it's boiling and the steam's coming up, you get that whistle from the tea kettle? That's what this stadium's going to be like. All of the pressure in the world is going to come out from the mouths of these Nebraska fans. And this stadium is going to be loud. It's going to be electric. And the wide receivers and the quarterback in Shadur Sanders, I'm not worried about them responding to the crowd noise, but I think you're going to see a lot of false starts. And for Colorado's defense, perhaps a lot of offsides. And I think you're going to see the stadium impact the penalty game, which will give Nebraska some additional free yards. And it will also give the team a ton of energy, therefore helping to propel them to win. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Remember to like, subscribe, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks to Crash2488 and Nebraska Rascal for sponsoring this video and channel as Heisman patrons. Thanks to Chris Lane, Connor Little OH, Ismar, and Tyler Nye for sponsoring this video and channel as All-American members. And thanks to John Lynn, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, and Janisha Cockrell for sponsoring this video and channel as all conference members. If you do want my merchandise free of charge, signed by me, sign up as a Heisman member for 6 months at $25 a month, and you will get it free, signed by me, and delivered to you. If you want merchandise without membership ties, just visit the link in the description or down below in the pinned comment. And the link in the description and down below in the comment section is also where you will find the link to my Patreon page. Have a great day, guys, and I will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.